How are you all doing tonight? Excellent. Thank you. Thank you. A few years ago, we had a small incident at my house. A group of friends were over, and we were messing with this stuffed shark. As the very mature 13-year-olds we were, we decided it was a grand idea to repeatedly cave the shark's face in on itself and then wear it as a hat. Then, this is not, I'll tell you who Carl is. Carl is a friend, and this is not Carl. This is Jake, who's here tonight. Thank you, Jake. Carl made a comment about the shark. He said something along the lines of, "The shark's retarded." But as Batman appears when the bat signal shines, my mother teleported into the room and lectured us about why we don't use this offensive language, granting me the gift of embarrassment. However, I knew she was right. This dumb shark story was my epiphany moment, my light bulb. This was the birthplace of my 1,000 points analogy. But more on that later. None of this makes sense if you don't know my story. I was born on November 9th, 2003, and lived in Ronkonkoma, Long Island for the first few years of my childhood. I went to a library social group with other kids my age, and I was typically developing, hitting my milestones. However, I was excruciatingly shy, which is ironic that I'm now standing before all of you talking about a silly stuffed shark. The biggest difference between me and the other kids in my group was that they all had siblings. So my parents fired up the factory one last time, and 9 months later, Eric was born. A few years went by, and they started to notice abnormal behavior. He didn't keep eye contact very well, and his speech wasn't coming along as quickly as mine had. So they took him to a doctor, and on January 20th, 2009, my brother was diagnosed with autism. I, of course, didn't really understand this for a few more years, but my brother was now diagnosed to be different, to grow up with challenges far greater than the ordinary boy would ever face, and yet a unique persona that was all his own point combination. But again, more on the points later. After working with an excellent team of therapists in early intervention and attending a special preschool, Eric landed himself a spot in a small class here in Goshen's elementary school. After Eric's kindergarten introduction, the Orzell family's been very active in the autism community here in Orange County. My mother joined a group of dedicated parents with an organization called AMOC, the Autism Move-a-thon of Orange County. This group of parents host community events, raise awareness, and fundraise in order to give families affected by autism in the area annual grants. I've been a volunteer since I was 6. This group of parents went on to create the Thunderbolts, New York certified Special Olympic basketball, swimming, bowling, track and field, and weightlifting teams. Over the past 8 years, we've trained over 150 athletes of all abilities, and our teams are unified. This means that players and coaches such as myself can compete together. I coach on the basketball court and on the pool deck. This is my pride and joy. When I do compete, I can implement strategy, and the athletes apply their skills, of which I have absolutely none of. But together, we combine strengths and succeed. To see them overcome adversity, to win that gold medal, or have fun in defeat, it is euphoric. To see their hard work paying off, their dedication, but most importantly, their support to each other. Now, there have been a plethora of challenges that we have faced as a family. Eric's first challenge for us was his 3-page long list of food allergies. Now, I know you can't read that very well, but imagine being able to eat approximately nothing. Unfortunately, these allergies have not gone away with age, as they do for some people. So we are still constantly cleaning, constantly cooking, constantly reading food labels. Fortunately for Eric, Potatoes are not amongst these food allergies, and they become a large portion of his diet. Of course, the greatest challenges came with his diagnosis: the speech barrier, the behavioral outbreaks, the slower development. All of these weaknesses are still being worked on to this day, but they've made us as a family stronger. Patience, compassion, leadership, these are all traits I've gained working with Eric over the years. Doing math homework to this day is still a tremendous struggle because he is convinced, to be fair, as was I, that the teacher is wrong, in his case, me, in my case, Mr. Joyce, and that he's right. But with repetition and patience, we succeed. So, 1,000 points. What does it mean? Well, this is just an analogy that I came up with a few years ago, and it's my way of looking at how people's brains work. So let's say we all have a point system when we're born. Each of us have a bank of 1,000 points that are spread out into different categories that make us who we are. For a typical person, the points are spread out fairly evenly. For example, they might have 40 points in history, 45 points in math, and maybe 70 points in sports. The typical person is pretty good at everything, jack of all trades, master of none. The difference with a person with autism is that their point distribution is more extreme. So they might have maybe 130 points in memory and only 10 in speech. For example, Eric's been able to say the alphabet backwards since he was only 3. Can anyone else here do that? I know if I tried, I'd get to around X, and numbers and emojis would start coming out of my mouth. We all have the same 1,000 points. They're just spread out differently. It's what made Eric and I's bond so strong. It's his shortcomings in math that I fill with my strengths, and it was my shortcomings in being humorous he's brought out in me. We all have the same 1,000 points. And yet, we still judge people for their differences in points. People of all skin colors, or mental disabilities, or physical handicaps. These are all just effects of different point combinations. We all have the same 1,000 points. We are all human, just constructed differently in order to fill our own unique roles in life, our own niches. When we can learn to combine these points, combine strengths and fill in the gaps where there are deficits, we can do extraordinary things. Thank you, Eric. You're the best teammate I could have ever asked for.